Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sami Parvez show. Today, I'm joined by Mocha Bezirgan, who is an independent investigative journalist and also the founder of Media Bezirgan. We will be discussing about his work as an independent investigative journalist, and also we'll be talking what he covers, especially with respect to Khalistani movement. Thank you so much, Mocha, joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And could you please tell me about your background? I know you are an independent journalist, but the work you do that is amazing. Like it is hardly ever to get in Canadian media, including independent media. But you do the work in a different way. So could you please elaborate that one?
Thank you. Well, my background, I was born in Istanbul, and when I was 1 year old, my family moved to Toronto. And then around the age of 6, 7, they moved back to Istanbul. And then when I grew up and turned 8, I came back permanently to Canada, and I've been here since. Now I'm 25. And since last year, I've been my own boss. I have my own small media company, small but effective. And when you're your own boss, when you are your own editorial, you get to make decisions and you get to decide, for example, when to fight, when not to fight, how to cover it, who to associate with, etc., etc. You got to make these decisions and you need to be strategic and careful about it. There's a saying in Turkish, it's called çok dolaşanın ayağına bok bulaşır. Excuse my language, it means those who walk around a lot will eventually step on shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but and I'm trying not to do that, right? So you won't see me commenting on everything. You won't see me jumping on all these trends that are happening, because I know there are people out there, they're trying to build a false narrative. And those who unfortunately don't see that long term, they jump into things. And then eventually a false narrative is built about them, and then they are finished. Or they get reputational damage that's going to take them years to recover from. So with that in mind, I've been very careful, and I have always walked on my own path, and I have always maintained my own editorial independence, whether it be covering the international student protest, whether it be covering the Quds 4 case, whether it be covering the Khalistani protests. And when you have your own editorial, people, well, that's the difference, whether you have your own editorial or not, because I have my own editorial, I can make calls, and because I'm independent and I'm my own boss, when people violate my rights, basic example, foreign media companies stealing my footage, I can decide whether to sue them or not, or to fight with them or not. But if you're not your own boss, you can't make these decisions. You can't make editorial decisions, from what angle to cover things. You can't make reputational decisions. You can't make, and that goes both ways. It's not like you're not being allowed to associate with certain people, but you're also being forced to associate with people that you would rather not. But if you have that freedom, editorial independence, you have power, you decide who to associate with, you decide how to cover things, you decide how to run things, you take the risks, you come up with an idea, you come up with the philosophy. So I think that's the next step for every reporter, journalist in this age, to eventually obtain or attain full editorial independence, where your own boss.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Yeah,
don't know, does that sound familiar to you? Because you are also an independent, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I'm unlike you.
No, no, I saw your footage in at the farmers protest. It was
Thank
excellent coverage. Thank you for that.
Thank you. My pleasure, sir. And but the work you are doing, it is unique. I would say it. Maybe my audience or maybe people don't agree with me, but they should agree with me because in my sense, the work you are doing. Let's say if there is an independent media or mainstream media where they are particularly conservative or liberal, pro Trudeau or critic of Trudeau,
Mhm.
or liberal government current we have. But you are doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much once again for making time for me. I know
Thank you.
like you are a very busy man. And could you please also elaborate when did you decide you have to do this and to take this step? Did you go to a journalism school or from childhood you wanted to be an independent journalist?
Well, I did go to broadcasting school in Toronto for 2 years at Humber College. But even though I completed the course, I never picked up my diploma.
Wow.
And so did my colleague, who is also in the industry. And he also completed his course, but he didn't pick up the diploma. And the reason why we didn't bother, well, I can't speak for himself, but for me, I don't care because what I found out that if I knew, I wouldn't have went to that course because they basically teach you how to set up tripods, how to use these big old cameras. They're
Mhm.
basically preparing employees for the mainstream media when mainstream media is a dying industry, when these cameras are already outdated, you know.
Mhm.
A good course would be teaching them how to be independent, how to be running their own show, making their own editorial decisions, not just being there to hold a camera or set up a tripod. People are much more capable of that, especially in this day and age. If you want to eat, you have to be that capable. For example, I edit my own footage, I record my own videos, I do my own setup. You know, I don't have any workers for me. I do all the production aspects are on me. And if I didn't know one step like editing or video camera or etc., then I would need to hire someone to do that. And if I were to do that, I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't have the money. But because I'm able to do everything myself, it is like minimum cost,
Mhm.
you know. So somebody called me a guerrilla journalist. They said because you know how guerrillas fight, they are very small units,
Mhm.
but they inflict a lot of pain because they do it strategically. And, you know, I don't use that term because it is associated with violence, but all the news that I cover are very strategic because at the end of the day, I think what differentiates a good journalist from a not so good one is what they cover. If, for example, mainstream media journalists, they're being fired en masse every year or month to month. And then they say democracy is dying. And then
Mhm.
I tell them to, well, you didn't even cover anything of significance. So democracy is going to be fine. You know, don't put too much value to yourself. Don't kid yourself. It's going to be fine. It is about covering the news that matters to the people. For example, the Khalistan stuff that are happening, the glorifications of violence that take place in these protests. Yet, both the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party associate themselves with these events by either attending them under the guise of it being a religious event or either having their family members as members of parliament. And none of these two parties would criticize each other for that, but they would attack each other on, for example, Diagolon, you know. But I ask, what did Diagolon ever do? How many planes did they bomb? How many planes did they conspire to bomb? How many people did they kidnap? How many people they're not even a terrorist organization. They don't even have a history of attack or crime or anything like that. So, but why is Justin Trudeau is talking about that and attacking the conservatives about that? Right? So there's a discrepancy. And why is the whole media, there's like some journalists out there, they only talk about Diagolon. They talk about, oh, look how scary it is, how this connects to that, da, da, da. Well, how about the Khalistani nexus? How about their political influence? Diagolon doesn't have any political connections to Conservative Party or to the Liberal Party. They don't have members of parliament that would represent them or, make their voice heard. But the Khalistanis do. So why should we be concerned about a group like Diagolon when we have much more serious, actually dangerous groups running amok, glorifying suicide bombers, glorifying the assassination of a foreign prime minister in our streets?
Yep.
Also putting a target on my back, So
Yeah, and also like it seems like you are being also targeted with respect to covering this Khalistani movement. Like it seems like they under siege Canadian democracy or with their own perspective. Like your movement is in India, but you are living in Canada, but you are also talking about that, and you also I know like you brought it up many times, these member of parliament who are being like Sikh from Sikh community, but they have a connection to this organization, though despite what World Sikh Organization say, this is just an organization, but mostly it is familiar to a Khalistani movement. Like please correct me if I'm wrong. But
it
when
is the most powerful Khalistani organization in the world,
yeah.
most influential.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their constitutions when they were founded.
Yeah. So you already also brought them up. So how when you cover these Khalistani movements protests, so you already been threatened. Like I know like there was a footage outside, and you are covering them, and they took their picture and posted it on Twitter and calling RCMP and CSIS, they should arrest you or detain you. So what happened? Did you receive any calls from CSIS or RCMP or local police?
No, they don't call me, I call them. What happened is when that happened, I was on my way from Lethbridge to Calgary. So I see this, wow, this is crazy. These guys are going crazy. Like they're outright lying. They know I'm not a spy.
Mm-hmm.
They send me their events being like, hey, we're going to be here. When I'm there, they're happy to see me. They wave at me.
Yeah.
They like the attention.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, they want to, I'm assuming that they want to further cause paranoia within their community as to, look, we're doing something very important. There are spies and with highly sophisticated gadgets recording us, etc. The sophisticated gadget is a DSLR camera and a GoPro for my security because I was assaulted by one of their protesters in Edmonton.
Oh.
Now, when that happened and when I saw that they posted my video and calling me a part of a network that assassinated one of their executives, Hardeep Singh Mijar,
Mm-hmm.
and saying that people should contact RCMP and CSIS if they see me. So I just pulled over to a RCMP police station in a small town, and I walked to the officer in there and I said, hey, look, take a look at this. Are you guys looking for me? And he watched the video and he laughed. No, we're not looking for you. I'm like, all right. He said, enjoy your 15-minute fame.
Yeah.
I said, okay, if you're looking for me, don't forget to give me a call. Then I left. And like, there's no reason for RCMP, for CSIS to be concerned about me, or you know what I mean? I am not committing any crime. It is
Yeah.
not a crime, or it is not suspicious activity
Yeah.
to be on a sidewalk recording a public event that was advertised publicly,
Mm-hmm.
especially a public event that is of interest to not only Canadian public, but also internationally to the Indian public, but also to the members of parliament and ministers and police chiefs of Canada as well.
Yeah.
Police chiefs follow my footage. Politicians, premiers follow my footage. For example, the celebration of the assassination of Indira Gandhi in Vancouver. That footage was used by a member of parliament. That footage was relied upon by ministers when they condemned the event. There was no other footage professionally taken that captured the whole essence of the event, of flag burnings, of this and that. And that video was infringed upon by major Indian media outlets where they blur my logo, put their own logo, give no credit, which I'm taking legal action against them. I hired a top-notch US attorney and I have obtained copyright. I have copyrighted all of my footage. So in the future, we'll see which way they want to go. Either we'll settle it in front of the public or we'll settle quietly. But I would much rather have a public settlement to set a precedent that you can't steal my footage. It is wrong. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep people updated on that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I saw you mentioned that you already filed for copyright in US, but why did you do it in US rather than in Canada? So there we don't have such laws to keep your your rights valid especially copyrights.
When it comes to copyrights, US is the powerhouse. They have better laws and they have, in my opinion, better laws. But what's most important is that YouTube is headquartered in United States. And so is X, and so is many other social media companies. And when these companies steal my footage and upload it on YouTube, I tell YouTube, hey, this is my footage, by the way. Look at that. It's the exact same. YouTube takes the video down and gives them a strike. And a strike is devastating, especially if you get 3 of them, they delete your channel. So what YouTube does is very admirable, but it is the law, what they're doing. It says to this big Indian media company with millions of subscribers, says, hey, you stole the footage of this guy who has only 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're going to issue you a strike. And if you get another 2 strikes, we're going to delete your channel. So when they receive that strike, it's a big deal for them and they want to resolve it. And then they reach out to me. They won't reach out to me before the strike. When I reach out to them, they won't respond. But when YouTube leverages me and gives them a strike, they reach out to me. Sometimes they lie to YouTube and say there's a legal process called counter claim or counter notification. What they do is, please remove the strike. We did not steal the video. We have permission or justification, or that Mocha made a mistake in his judgment. This is not the same video. And we accept US jurisdiction if we live outside of US, and we accept the Court of Northern California District. So they accept in their counter notification telling, because YouTube can't determine who owns what. So YouTube says, listen, if you agree that you are legally liable at this courthouse in this jurisdiction, and you're telling me that the footage, you have a right to use that footage, okay, if you give me that legal letter, I will put it back on. So that's what happens. YouTube puts it back on. But before they put it back on, YouTube comes to me and says, hey, they filed this counter notification. They're saying that they have a right to use the footage. You have 10 days to sue them and show us a lawsuit. Otherwise, we will put the video back on. So now I have to make a decision. Am I going to let them lie and walk all over my rights? Or am I going to actually fight? They wouldn't have lied under penalty of perjury if they knew that I would take legal action. They thought I wouldn't, so now I have to. So now I'm taking legal action, and we'll see how that goes. But I am what I do, and what I do is my work is my footage, my coverage, the way I edit it, the way I put it out there, the way I record it, the expenses I incur, all of that. I can't just let other people steal it, especially multi-million-dollar companies blurring my logo and adding their own logo as if it's their footage.
Yeah.
It's so that's why I register in the US. That's why, because YouTube is headquartered in US.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like it seems like my connection is a little bit slow. Yeah, but still uh they still that case is pending, right? The one you filed, like you just talked about that one, and you posted it on Twitter, which is now X, where you said a company or a Indian media company used your footage and blurring your logo, and it clearly shows that this is their footage. But that case is still pending.
Yes, it is pending where my lawyers are. It takes time to find a good lawyer. It takes time to make sure that they understand the vision and it takes time. And so it took some time, but even though it is slow, it is still moving forward, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna catch them. And I will let everyone know once I catch them.
Okay. Thank you. And is your life is under threat? Is like that post came out, and you already mentioned that there could be threat against you. So do you feel yourself secure when you are covering these protests or demonstrations?
Well, there have been made numerous threats to my life through online messaging or mail or publicly, etc. All these have been, all these are being taken care of by police.
Mhm.
I don't know if they are much use or not, but we'll see. And I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. I'm out there. I still continue doing what I'm doing, and I take necessary security precautions, and I'm not worried. But I think that's because I have a tough mind and a tough emotional well-being, so I'm able to handle these things. These are not a problem for me. I can come through it. But if it was another person with who has no experience or um, a philosophy to back them up, it could be troubling for them. So, but Canadian public loves me. Canadian public is there for me. They support me. They love the work I do. And against these threats, they stood by me. So as long as I have the support of the Canadian public, nothing can stop me. And I only serve through my work the Canadian public. I stand up for them. I'm in Canada. I'm a Canadian, and that's what I've been doing with my work. And I like to be remembered with my work, with what I did, with what I made with my labor, whose lives I touched. You know. So I think I've been doing good, but
Mhm.
I still have a long way to go, and we'll see where things go. But you know,
Yeah, we appreciate
as
it.
long as I have people's support, I will be fine. I don't
Mhm.
have to worry about anything. I'm not scared of anything.
Mhm.
The people who are threatening me, they do not have the public support on their side.
Yeah.
No one would support someone who glorifies a suicide bomber,
Mhm.
you know? So they have a long way to come if they want.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we pray like for your safety. Yeah, everyone loves you, including myself, and the way you work, and your like videos or on social media, your followers speaks for themselves. So how much support do you have? As you said, like these Khalistani supporter loves to see you, like they will become excited whenever they will see you. You are giving them a coverage. But don't you think you are giving them, you are highlighting them, it seems like you are promoting them by giving them coverage. don't you think you are doing something positive for them?
They might think that, but I don't think that. What I'm doing is this is a event that is taking place in the streets of Canada, and Canadians should be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Canadians should know their political affiliations, their connections, what they are about. Because when I used to see their protests a few years ago, I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know what they're about. What is this thing about? Why is this happening here? What this has to do with Canada? Who are these people?
Yep.
But when I studied further and further and got a firm understanding of what's going on, now I am conveying that knowledge to the rest of general public. And this is an ongoing learning process. Things change, things, you know, new things happen, etc., as we go further into the future.
Mm-hmm.
But um, the thing is, I am not politically motivated for or against Khalistani activities. I am not politically or ideologically friendly or enemy with them. What I do is simply tell the truth and just show the Canadian public what's taking place in their streets. I've been doing this before that, and I'll be doing it after.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Khalistan protests were happening, and it started happening regularly after Hardeep Singh Nijjar's murder.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was covering Israel-Palestine protests
Yeah.
on Canadian streets. Before that, I was covering the convoys, the trucker convoys,
Yeah.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, so if you were to go back on my Twitter, my footage, you will see I've been covering consistently protests that are taking place on Canadian streets. And if there was a protest today in Calgary taking place, whether it be pro-Ukrainian or anti or LGBT or anti,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be there to cover it, to give coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So, some groups may think that is good, they're getting exposure. Some groups think this is not good, they don't want their pictures taken.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, my job is to report Canadians what's taking place
Mm-hmm.
on their streets.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
it is up to the Canadian public then to decide or, to make up their minds how they feel about it.
Yep. And as you also mentioned that you covered Freedom Convoy, which was the most historic protest in the history of Canada, which compelled Canadian government to change their tone to the Canadian people with respect to vaccine mandate. But how do you see, like, how do you assess it as a journalist, as an investigative journalist, to seeing Freedom Convoy, then we see these Khalistani protests, pro-Palestinian supporter and pro-Ukrainian supporter and other part like LGBTQ supporter. So how do you distinguish them with respect to Freedom Convoy, which Trudeau and some other politician called they are racist or white supremacist or they are a French party or French group?
Well, the most basic distinction is that you never know what you're going to come across at a Khalistan protest, because they always come up with something creative and something outrageous, whether it be glorifying the assassination of a foreign prime minister by her own bodyguards, whether it be glorification of a suicide bomber that killed many people and injured dozens of people, whether it be floating around Talvinder Singh Parmar's pictures, who is the co-conspirator of Canada's deadliest terror attack, the Air India bombings, and whether it be showing up at the memorial for the victims of that terror event and with your Khalistan flags and, trying to say that it wasn't us, it was the Indian government that did it to discredit us, etc. So you never know what you're going to come across. They always come up with something very unexpected, very unexpected. So these protests are always, how do you say it? you just don't know what you're going to come across.
Mhm.
Whereas you have, fair bit of an idea of what you may come across at a freedom convoy or an LGBT protest or a Israel, Hamas, Palestine protest, whatever. And I also make that distinction in my coverage.
Mhm.
Not every Palestine supporter is a Hamas supporter,
Yeah.
and not so when I cover it, if I see signs of, for example, I'll give you an example. The October attack happens in Israel last year, and 2 days later, you have people with Palestine flags out there distributing candy, for example. What is there to be celebrated? Many people have been killed. Like, why are you out here? What are you doing? There is no operation on Palestine or anything like that. Right at the moment, many people are killed and everyone is grieving.
Mhm.
But when I see that, well, how can I say, oh, pro-Palestine? Well, that was pro-Hamas. But then there are people, including people of Jewish descent, who say, yeah, Hamas is bad. It's a terrorist organization. They're hurting people. They're hurting their own people. But also, we have a differing opinion of what Israel should be or what they should do. People have different opinions. And I won't go out there and say, this is what it is. This is what's happening, to push a certain narrative, to just color things in black and white, you know? And I think the quality and you know, my coverage, what I put out there, speaks to that. And to do that, you need editorial independence.
Mhm.
If you don't have editorial independence and you have an agenda, then people will smell that very quickly. And people don't want that. I think, for example, most recent, my coverage with international students
Yeah.
in Toronto. When I talk with them, I don't belittle them or I don't come as hostile or anything like that. I just let them speak. I put the questions to them and I'll let them speak. And my coverage got lots of attention. It got lots of views. And I can't control what people say or what people feel about the issue, but they did not they did not look favorable upon students, saying that, oh, we could just buy an LMIA, labor market impact assessment, for $20,000-$30,000 and stay here in Canada, which is illegal. It's illegal to sell that. It's illegal to buy that. And but if I were hostile towards the students wouldn't give me that interview,
Mhm.
you know. So I try to be approachable to everyone in society, so they feel comfortable speaking. But
Mhm.
I can't control what the public will think when they hear about that. Could predict what the public or certain sections of the public will think about a subject, but I cannot personify that and be out there as their, so to speak, lawyer or something in the court of public opinion and grilling people, based on what they would expect. Except if we're dealing with a politician, then that's a different story. If we're dealing with someone who is in power, in authority, yeah, international students, I have my own opinions about them. When I went to college, there were too many of them, especially from Punjab. Why is it that there are so many international students from Punjab? What is going on here? Why is it that all the protests are made off of mostly Punjab students? Where are the Japanese international students? Where are the Chinese? Are they not having any issues? What's going on here? And I ask the students, hey, have you been exploited by your own people, by your own community? And they say yes. And I heard this many, many times from other communities as well. But so who's running these businesses? I don't want, or I don't think it's fair, in my opinion, to put all the blame on the international students and not put any blame on these agencies that made so much money bringing them here, selling them a fake dream. And how about the government that lied to them and lied to the Canadian people, saying that we need this, we need them for the jobs, we need them, etc. So now we have a societal issue because both sides have been lied to by the government, in my assessment. And if I were to go there and be very negative towards them, they would not talk to me. And if they don't talk to me, it is not advancing public discourse. I can't advance public discourse without an input. I always try, whether it be LGBT, whether it be this protest, that protest, or this issue, that issue, I always reach out to the other side to give them fair representation, to give them a chance to put in their perspective. And I have no hate towards anyone, or I don't have any, what do you call it, political or ideological motives. What I have hate for and what I have political motives for is those people who steal my content. That's my top, like that's what hurts me most, That's when I take. Also politicians, people who are in authority. When they lie to the Canadian public, when they lie to me, when they take so much of our money, so much of our taxpayer money, and then they try to make a fool out of us. And I cover large stories, infrastructure corruption, resource corruption. I've covered extensively Amarjeet Sohi, current Edmonton mayor's corruption, Navdeep Bain's corruption, the Gordie Howe International Bridge corruption, the Regina Bypass corruption, the corruption that's happening in the village village of Empress of Alberta at the border of Saskatchewan. So these are the things that I cover, and I do, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, I do not want these fools to think they're smarter than us, where they could trick us and take away our money and then enrich themselves, like Amarjeet Sohi. His brother's trucking company gets all the city contracts, the government contracts, upwards of millions of dollars. And within that trucking company, Amarjeet Sohi also has his former campaign manager enriching himself too. So they operate like a gang, a financial gang. And that's all been exposed in my extensive reports. So I'm not going to let these people make a fool out of us, and that doesn't matter if they are white, black, brown, Turkish, Punjabi, or Canadian, or whatever, I don't care, if you did corruption, we're going to catch you. And you could get away with it with the mainstream media. You could play the race card with them, but that doesn't work with me. So that doesn't get a pass from me. So if we catch you, we will expose you.
Yeah, as you mentioned that you covered too many and you exposed them. Did it make any impact? But Amarjeet Sohi is still the mayor of Edmonton City, and it seems like I believe his brother is still getting those contracts. Or did it make any impact? I know like public got aware, but did it make any impact on the top level that we should stop doing what we are doing?
Well, as far as I know, his brother's trucking company still gets contracts from other governments and other municipalities, and they're continuing their operations. The thing is, I interviewed Dr. Gary Bodding. He's a double PhD, former criminal defense lawyer, and I asked him about the Regina Bypass corruption, about Amarjeet Sohi, about Gordie Howe International Bridge project as well. And in his experience and in his words, that the government is often blind in the wrong kinds of way, and it takes time for it to, paraphrasing here, to correct course and then catch these corrupt people. And it's also very political. It's politicized, whether it be the police or the prosecutor, etc. The evidence is out there. It's just a matter of which Crown prosecutor is willing to say, hey, this deserves further examination. Unfortunately, our Crown prosecutor seems to be busy with other matters, and our CMP seems to be not equipped with investigating high-level corruption. So all these things that are very important and critical for a healthy society, these things are going under the radar. They're flying under the radar. And unfortunately, so no, the police have not taken action yet, but that doesn't mean they will not. It just depends on the regime. It depends on how things develop. And we'll just continue doing what we're doing, exposing and telling the truth and showing the people what's really happening. And then we'll see what that public pressure will do. Hopefully it will, because in Canada, if you don't have public pressure on police, if you don't have public pressure on courts, etc., things are not going to get done. And courts do consider public pressure. They do want, because courts, for example, I've attended court hearings many, many times. They do weigh in the possibility of giving an image that justice is not being done. They don't want that. They don't want public to think that justice is not being done. They don't want to damage the fate of the people in the court system, etc. So they have to weigh in these things, and when they're making decisions, whether to allow police get away with charter violations or not, etc. And so does police institutions. They need to keep good relations with the public, with communities. That's why they show up at community events, including Khalistani events that are caught in religious events. They do have an interest in keeping good relations. So the best way to keep good relations with a large part of society for police is to catch corrupt politicians, lay the law not just for the rich and powerful and politically influential like Justin Trudeau, but lay the law also for in protection of little people, you know. So they have lot of work to do to recover their damaged reputation from the events of the past few years, especially during the convoy. But we'll see. I probably should not talk about it any further. I don't want to keep going on rambling.
Yeah, I love to hear from you. We need to set up for maybe hours to talk about this one day. They won't finish, like you have too much information, but unfortunately, we are short of time. But hopefully, see you again anytime soon. See where we go. Actually, we were I wanted to talk about particularly corruption of these politicians. Like we recently came to know minister's husband got like millions of dollars for loan as a future interpreter. There are too much is ongoing, and I think I must leave it here. And thank you so much. And do you have a message to the audience who wants to reach you, or they can support you? I know, like you have a great, already you have a great audience. You don't need to show it here, but to tell it here. But if you would like to.
Well, if people would like to support my independent journalism, they can go to mediabezirgan.com/donate. And, I am not supported by any government, and I wouldn't accept support from any government, or I'm not supported by any political group or anything like that either, and I wouldn't accept it either. To me, editorial independence is very important, and people should know me from the work I put out there, and they can rest assured that the work I put out there is factual, is correct, is the truth. And I strive to be very fair and bring all sides of bring a wide variety of coverage from both sides. And if they support me, I'll be able to keep doing what I'm doing. Other than that, they can follow me on Twitter, Mocha Bezirgan. That's where I'm most active. That's where I put out my articles, videos, etc. most of the time. Yeah, so we have lot of exciting things that are going to be happening in the coming days, coming weeks. I have some bombshell reports coming. I'm working on it, so stay tuned.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mocha, for your time appearing on the Sami Parvez show. Looking forward to seeing you again. And wishing you very best on your what you are doing and on upcoming your bombshell reports.
Thank you very much. Very
Uh,
happy to join. Thank you.
yeah,
Take
thank you.
care.
My pleasure.